Hey guys, how's it going? So Infinity just won Slashback not only 2 minutes ago, and during that time I was talking to someone about how hard the Hisui versus Saber matchup is in particular, and there's just a lot of it, and honestly, like, I kind of wanted to do a mini deep dive because of how interesting it is. It's overall, like, I've determined it's a bad matchup for Hisui, but for really weird reasons. So, I think that Saber has been getting a lot of attention recently, and that's fair. I think Infinity has, like, championed her really well. I've been able to take sets off Infinity, but his game plan is so solid, and this character is very solid in enforcing his game plan of very basic strike throw, and leveraging almost all of his offensive options on stuff that is going to net him profit most of the time or keep him safe a majority of the time. It's very, very, very strong. This character does, I think, have a really good matchup spread, but I do think a lot of people don't understand the matchup. But for Hisui in particular, I wanted to talk about today how weird this matchup is for me, and like why, even though I can beat Infinity sometimes, it's so ridiculously weird. Of course, Infinity's such a like incredible player, like it feels like he never gets tilted. God, Infinity is awesome. Congrats to him for winning Slashback. But let's go over it. So, the main reason why this matchup is so weird is because a lot of Hisui's options directly can beat Saber's options. Like, if we look at dive kick, this thing is plus on block, and it's the dreaded nightmare of a lot of people. If you're in the corner and Saber's like looking at you and waiting for you to maybe do high shield, if you do high shield, you don't have enough moon gauge, Saber can just charge this and punish you for holding shield, or you can just simply, like, if I shield this, it goes into a simple, just a shield interaction scenario. But it's plus on block, it's very scary, it can be hard to run under if you're not ready for it. You can also do it uncharged and be minus but safe, but just kind of chill. It's very weird. But the weird thing that Hisui has is if Saber does something like this, we have Dust, and Dust is a lingering thing that lasts for a super long time. Obviously, I kind of messed up the spacing a little bit. If Saber were to do it from like right here, somewhere like right here. Alright, I messed it up again. But if Saber was to do it from like in neutral, in the corner at certain spacings, Saber can almost always get hit by this dust, like, because it lingers for so long. I messed it up there again. There we go. And that's pretty applicable in neutral too. Like if Saber was to do it from like somewhere like right here. And it's pretty easy to get the spacing because of just being able to react to it in neutral is really easy, especially when you see they've used the double jump and or air dash. And that's actually ridiculously strong. Like, because you put it out, you essentially have no commitments after. You still basically can move around almost instantaneously after it comes out. And it nets a ridiculously good reward on hit. So it definitely makes it pretty scary. And if you have really good reactions, you can do this. It's better and more consistent at the cost of moon gauge. So that is one option that Hisui can beat Saber with really well. The dust. I messed it up a lot of times there, but for the most part, if you space it really well, it is really consistent to use. The next part is bentos. So Saber, I think, in my opinion, one of her most like kind of underrated things. Well, it's not underrated, but slowly becoming more discovered how broken it is this. This thing is so fast. It goes so far. It can catch air dashes. If you do it quick enough, it can catch jumps. It's ridiculously good. You can cancel it into dash, start your pressure. You can do a lot of things, and you can also do something like this. doesn't, I believe this might have super armor. I'm not, it's either that or that. But anyways, the bentos can definitely deter Saber from doing something like this for obvious reasons. Like, if Saber is just gonna like try and like Rekka she's not gonna get it. And it also enforces your kind of ground gameplay, and now you're gonna enforce jumping and doing JAs and then backing off behind the bento to where Saber can't really like try and pressure you with her long buttons. So bento's really good against Saber. It's pretty hard to use if Saber's right in your face, but if you get the distance, you can definitely use it really good. Another thing is A dust. I've been using it a little more. It lingers a little longer than B dust, but it's a little bit more risky. But it can serve the same purpose. The other thing is projectiles. Her lamp, really good. Really good at controlling the space and kind of doing a similar thing that the bentos do, but from approaching. If you throw lamp and then run behind it, you can get a really good approach on Saber. And if she jumps away, you can just set a bento down. So, for example, like if you throw a lamp and they super jump, you can run under them and then set your bento down, and then kind of try and run them into the corner until you can get a position that is leveraged in your favor. And not only is lamp good, but A is really good. It's a pretty hard to angle compared to other stuff, but if you do this, you can actually hit Saber out of her dive kick again. So Hisui we've analyzed some pretty gosh darn good options against Saber. And Moonskill item throw is kind of the same thing. I've got really unlucky with it instead of with Infinity, where I do Moonskill item throw and I don't get like an anti-air projectile or something that like kind of angles upwards and I get hit. But it's really unfortunate. And one more thing is Saber air dash. It's linear, right? So one thing that Hisui can do is she can anti-air with ladle. Let me just. Hisui can anti-air with ladle very reliably, which nets a ridiculously huge punish. Oh, I messed it up. I would have done a different round anyways, but you get the point. It's a really big punish, especially meterlessly, when you can do this. Like, that's a really good punish right there. Like, especially for meterlessly, you're pretty much gonna get near 4K. Really good. So that is something Saber that Hisui has. Now, some general stuff before I go into the thing that peeves me off the most. In the corner, Hisui has a really hard time getting out of stuff like this. These buttons are absurd. They're so long, and Saber is really fast. It can mix up her pressure like this. And Hisui just doesn't really have much to combat this. So if we just do backdash and we just make Saber spam the C button. It's ridiculously tight to punish that with 2C. And depending on the range, you can't actually get ladle sometimes as a confirm. Like that. And you have to actually spend 236C. Which is actually not the best in terms of damage that you can get. So it's really hard, especially in the corner. And also, let me check this out. Whoa. It clashes too if you're not quick enough with it. And when you're far away enough from it, it can clash, which is really annoying. So in order to beat it, you have to do something like Moonskill Ladle, which even then is really ridiculously hard to time. And then, oh, you want to air dash? Well, good luck, because you gotta fight against this button. So overall, Hisui has a pretty hard time. There's some specific stuff I try to do to get out of the corner. but I don't particularly want to share them at the moment. It's kind of like in the lab, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's where Hisui kind of struggles, and of course her defense is not the best with no reversal. But now we're gonna get to the part that peeves me the most, but what makes this matchup so volatile. So here, I'm just gonna throw an item. You see that item? You see how I wanted to use that to get in, or potentially stop dive kick? Now what if my opponent said, here, let me jump all the way back. What if my opponent said Avalon and destroyed my entire game plan? So all of these options that I talked about just a few seconds ago that kills Saber's game plan, not game plan, but can kill a lot of her options, all of them can be beat by Avalon. It's ridiculously bad. Ridiculously bad for Hisui. And this is what makes the matchup really hard. In my opinion, I think I've actually moved the matchup into losing for Hisui. Once Saber gets 3 bars, your game plan is significantly weakened to a point where you have to play a very weird meter game. Now the thing is, Saber doesn't really have to use a whole lot of meter. And the thing is, she can though if she wants to, because she has a plus on block super, which is absurdly good. But the thing is, in this matchup, like we talked about, because her rebeats are so good, she doesn't necessarily have to use that meter like that. So she just stacks up this meter throughout the game. And if you're trying to camp her out and she's doing this, you're so scared of her getting that 3 bars because she's going to do that super, and it's going to beat all of your options. All the dusts, all the projectiles, all the bentos, that all goes away. If you want to do a block string and you do something like this, you're dead. She's gonna Avalon it. And worst of all is, it actually messes up your Oki. So, this is the Oki I do. That's the Oki I do, right? But it doesn't work against Saber. You wanna know why? Because Saber will always get this on the bento, on Oki. So I have to do different Oki, and it's not the worst, but it's significantly worse than the bento Oki I showed. So not only am I leveraging a lot of stuff on my defense because I have to respect her and try and make her waste meter more, but I also have to leverage my own offense by making it worse because I'm so scared of Avalon. So bentos no longer become a good threat. Dust, because it lingers so long, can be Avaloned. And projectiles, you really cannot throw a neutral unless you have a good read on them in the air. So this matchup becomes absurdly hard there. But that's the thing. It's just a really, really weird and hard to analyze scenario where you're looking at your options that can completely beat out Saber's if she doesn't have 3 bars, and Saber, who is looking to get 3 bars for the entire matchup, and you trying to leverage that advantage she has by making her use meter on defense, make her try and get a kill and go to the next round where she has no meter. There's a lot of things you have to try to do to win this matchup as Hisui, and it's very difficult, but because you have so many options that can beat a lot of her options, it's really just difficult to say where the matchup lies on like a matchup chart. And I've come to the conclusion that it's slight Saber's favor, if not probably a little more, simply because your fast buttons can actually be really good in a lot of scenarios, and your neutral is actually probably better than hers in this matchup. But ultimately, once she gets that 3 bars, you have to play very passive. I still don't think it's impossible, but you have to leverage a lot of the options that you use to try and rebuild back that meter advantage, or make sure that if you're losing a round, you're going into the next round with a lot of meter and them not having 3 bars, so you can try and one-turn them or something of the likes, and make sure they don't get to play their game with Avalon. It's very, very difficult though. But it's very complex. I think that Saber is ridiculously strong, and I recently played her a lot, and she's really, really, really fun too. I think that a lot of people don't know how to fight her perfectly, and that's understandable, especially when there's not that many Saber players. But ultimately, she's not top 3. She can be beaten. She's very difficult to fight, but everyone needs to look in and lab their own stuff against her. And for me personally, I've labbed a lot against this character. I've looked into a lot of the stuff she does, especially against Hisui. And I'm just kind of amazed, like, the depth that this matchup has out of every single Hisui matchup I've played. Like, I don't think there's anything that comes close. And honestly, it's awesome. I really love it. And that's why a lot of people like to ask me, like, why don't you play Vlav into this matchup? Because I also play Vlav. I just love playing this matchup because it's really difficult, and especially against Infinity it's really difficult. There's a challenge for me, because I know it's not impossible to win, but I know I need to play really good to win. But going forward in tournament, I may start using Vlav more. But ultimately, in a lot of these matchups, where even if Hisui goes even, and maybe Vlav wins, I still like to go Hisui because I really like trying to make this character work, and I really like trying to lab with her and do all this fun stuff. But yeah, like I said, I was talking about this matchup a lot, and how it's very, very, very strange. There's probably some stuff I missed, but yeah, there's definitely some stuff that I missed now that I think about it. I didn't really go over Rekka's stuff in the corner and how that's really, really, really good, and how it can catch her up back. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. I really just wanted to go over it because this is something I've been talking about forever. Like this matchup is so difficult, and there's a reason why I get so upset, and I kind of wanted to show that, like, I'm not getting upset because this character's annoying. I'm getting upset because this matchup in particular is annoying, and it's not just Saber, it's the interactions and it's the level of options that are being used that are really annoying. But yeah, Saber's cooking right now. The Saber stonks are up. Congrats to Infinity for winning Slashback, and I hope y'all go lab some more against this character because gosh darn it, she's a menace. But thank y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.